GBH and Discharge, The
Yeah.
Exploited, MDC, Battalion of Saints. You know, back in the early days, I was going to see shows like Motorhead. You
Right.
know, Motorhead was opening up for Ozzy on the
Oh
Blizzard of
wow.
Oz tour, the first tour back in '81.
Okay.
I was going to shows like this, and then like in '82, '83, you know, I started branching off, like I said, and going to these punk shows. And what was really cool back in the day in Chicago is, you know, it wasn't unusual to see, like, let's say 15 or 20 of us long-haired freaky guys mixed in with, you know, 300 punk rockers, you know, with mohawks or bald heads. But the point is we were all there for the music, so there was no
Right.
trouble between any of us, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody was into the music, because, you know, there's nothing like seeing the Exploited with 300 people in a small room, like, look not much bigger than an oversized garage, let's say, you know, and everyone's jammed in there. It's 120 degrees
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. You're dying, and you're having a great time. You're
Okay.
watching the Exploited in the UK subs, you know.
Yeah. Nice.
I mean, those were the days. That's all I could say. I learned a lot from the punk bands, you know, of course.
Seriously. But I've heard that in the olden days there was kind of a clash between the whole metal scene and the whole punk scene.
Well,
So
that's what I'm trying to say, is that in Chicago there was no clash.
okay.
It's like for example, when Motorhead was playing, it was the same thing. There were punk rockers at the Motorhead show as well. We had no
Okay.
problem with each other. It really
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
a problem, not that I recall, you know.
Okay. That's interesting. Then, being one of the most earliest innovators of extreme metal, you're now obviously looked upon as a metal messiah and a godfather. But I don't really appreciate the fact that Master did not garner as much as commercial success like the other bands. Is it because of the fact that Master has never compromised with its sound and the temperament? What do you have to say about it, Paul?
Honestly, what the fact is we made a lot of mistakes in the early days, you know.
Really?
It's like I got a manager in like say 1989, 88, 89, and he really didn't know what he was doing at the time. He was a college graduate, you know,
Okay.
but you know, he learned the music industry inside out and stuff. But when it came to really go out and do things, he really didn't know what he was doing. He made a lot of mistakes.
All right.
And, you know, unfortunately, and Nuclear Blast made a lot of mistakes, you know, putting out 7 albums in 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, this was a big problem. You know, the critics had a field day with that. They couldn't believe that I released 7 albums in 2 years, you know.
Mm.
So anyway, we made a lot of mistakes, and I think the biggest mistake was probably not signing the Combat deal, you know.
Oh yes, I've read about
Yeah,
that
yeah.
before.
Yeah, we made a big mistake, because if we would have signed the Combat deal, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, but we didn't. But point is if we would have signed it, I'd be in the upper class of the scene, you know.
Of course.
And because of the mistakes we made in the early days, I'm stuck in the underground. But on the other hand, you know, compromising your sound, you're right. A lot of these bands that are popular, they've compromised their sound. We're still playing heavy. You know, I'm never going to compromise my sound. It's not about money for me. It's about expression, freedom of expression, and that's
Yes.
it's what I believe in, what I live for, you know.
Yes. Nice to know, because even I believe in the same thing, and a lot of olden bands also, they have sold out because they compromised their sound and they just went after the money. But that is one place where Master stands out alone, being like the true flag bearer of underground death metal.
Yeah, you
Uh,
know, there's no reason to sell out, yo. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you got to stick by yourself, and that's about it, yo.
Exactly.
You know, of course.
Then one question which has always bothered me is that when most of the band in the death metal scene were focusing on lyrics which spoke about death, gore, Satanism and the occult, Master had something different to offer, with topics revolving around politics and its society. So why did you take this approach towards lyrics writing when the other bands were raking in the moolah by using the above mentioned topics?
Well, obviously Satan sells. It still sells today. Look
Yes,
at
it
Watain. Look at the band Watain. They're having big success using their idol Satan. You know, it's interesting. Good for
It
them.
is.
You know,
Yeah.
Idol Remains is having good success too as well. I appreciate it. You know, but for me, music is more important. You know,
Agreed.
It's like if I want to read about Satan or Jesus or whatever, I'll read a book, you know. You know, I like reading fiction as much as the other guy, but
Yeah.
I like singing about what's really happening in politics and in the society as a whole today. You know, it's like the politicians are nothing but criminals, all of them, and the reflection on society is terrible. You know, it's like today they're trying to dictate the way you should live, the politicians. I can't stand it, you know. Freedom of expression is being taken away. You know, back in the day when I was growing up, it was power to the people. Now it's power over the people, you know.
Right.
It's unfortunate today in society that the governments and the police, and they have too much control over people, you know.
Right.
It's like when you fly somewhere, they have all these questions for you, and it's blah, 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 and why are you here, and what are you doing, and it's not freedom anymore. It's control, you know.
Right.
This is why I record the album, The Human Machine.
Yes.
People are all becoming machines. People don't think for themselves. They wear the same shoes, the same haircuts, the same clothes. They want to have the same car as the neighbor. You know, what happened to thinking for yourself? You know what I mean?
I agree. Individualism is the most important, first of all.
Of course, for me, I believe in myself, and individualism is exactly an important thing today. And unfortunately, it's not happening, you know?
Yeah. I guess the youth of today needs to stand up for themselves and just go ahead from the so-called cliches of the so-called modern life and stuff.
Yeah, what I always say is stand up and be counted, you know, because if the youth don't get up today and make some changes or try and implement some changes, there's not going to be any more freedom.
Agreed.
Another 10, 20 years, we're all going to be robots run by, you know, like one big human machine. It's really the truth. It's what I feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that fact. And the next question is that what were the specific reasons because of which you decided to leave the US and started dwelling in Czech Republic full time? Tell us about your experiences after spending a great amount of time in that country.
Okay, well, the original reason is I was on tour with Malevolent Creation, obviously Master, and a band called Kravathor was a support band from the Czech Republic.
Yeah.
And we became really good friends, the drummer, guitar player, and the bassist. And I asked the guitar player and drummer if they'd like to record a project.
Okay.
And I had my German label at that time, System Shock. They flew me out to Europe, to the Czech Republic after the tour was finished.
Okay.
And we got together and wrote some songs and recorded an album called Martyr, Murder, X, The End of the Game.
Okay.
And during this time period, they asked me if I'd like to join their band Kravathor because the bassist had currently left the band.
Yeah.
And so this is my original reason to move here.
Okay.
And the guitar player and I traded places because in 2004 he moved to the U.S. and he still lives there.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah, he is now an American, and I still live here. I've been here for about 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And experiences, well, you know, when I first came to the country and stuff, you could really see it was an Eastern Bloc country. Everything was really old, and when I first came here, I was in shock, like traveling through the major cities. I got toward this village where I live, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. It was like cardboard skyscrapers, and you know, it was like it was sort of like the concrete jungle, I guess would be a good way to put it. A concrete jungle, but not like the USA. It was a completely different kind of architecture. It just really looked like square, but everything was square, you know? Yeah. It's hard to explain it, really. You have to see it. But point is that in the last, like, say, 5 years, let's say since the Czech Republic joined the European Union, they're remodeling everything, from the roads to the buildings. Everything's painted. Everything is in the city I live in. You know, every 3 months everything's new. You know, I would say in another 2 years the entire area where I live will be brand new. You know.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
So I have to say that the European Union money is going a long way here. Okay, unfortunately, a lot of the money is going to the politicians. I realize that too. But thankfully, they are remodeling and rebuilding everything. And you know, from the time I moved here to now, it's like it's a different world. You know, really.
Okay.
And I have to say, it's great for the Czech people. It's getting better. You know, good for them. You know.
Interesting. So you don't have any plans to move back to the U.S.?
That's a silly one there. No, first it was Bush, and now it's Obama.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in the nonsense over there,
Okay.
It's like, unfortunately, things haven't really changed much. I still have brothers there, family there, and they're
Okay.
telling me that everything's still the same. People are homeless. People are losing their homes. People are losing their jobs. Doesn't sound like anything's gotten really any better.
Hmm.
Maybe in time, it'll improve, but I don't believe in politicians, and they're a bunch of
Okay.
liars.
They are.
It's normal, It's normal in every country,
Hmm. All right. Good to hear that interesting story. And then I guess that you had also authored an autobiography entitled as Speckmann Surviving the Underground a few years back. So I would like you to shed light on this work of yours for our listeners.
Oh, it's so funny you bring that up. It's like I worked on the book for 2 or 3 years. I'm still adding stuff today, but point is that I can't find a publisher. Nobody's interested in releasing this book,
Oh,
I've been looking for a publisher for probably 5 years, to be honest with you.
okay.
It took several years to write it, and for nearly 5 years, I'm still searching for a publisher. There were like several different companies checking out the book, and most of the people were afraid to release the book because there's too many things about other people that are true,
Okay.
And what's really unusual to me is, hey, what's the problem with telling the truth? I can back up the truth. A lot of these crazy stories about different experiences in my life, some of the stories can be verified by newspaper articles and different things, and
Okay.
different time frames. Today on the internet, you can confirm a lot of things,
Hmm.
And but like I said, a lot of these companies are afraid to put the book out because a lot of the stories are true and they're not flattering. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. It's
Yeah.
not like a one-sided book where it's flattering me all the time. Hey, I'm not a it doesn't flatter me, a lot of the parts in the book too, but it's the story of my life and my life in rock and roll. And a lot of these people out there weren't very nice, and a lot of people were very cool, famous people. And I have great stories about them. And a lot of these publishers are afraid they're going to get sued. And I just think it's silly. One day I'll get it out. I just have to find somebody who doesn't care,
Certainly. So if any daring publisher is listening to the show right now, please help Paul out in publishing this out.
Yeah, it's an interesting book, but it's a crazy story, I mean, I grew up in Chicago, and here I'm in the Czech Republic. It's a long way, It was a long journey, a long,
Right.
arduous journey, And I'm still alive to tell about it,
Yeah. And it would be just amazing to read the book and get to know the whole experiences of your amazing life. And a lot of young people who haven't seen the old times like me and a lot of other people, they would be just getting a new thing with which they can go through, flip the pages and enjoy it a lot. So
there's a lot of funny things, Hopefully one day it comes out,
certainly,
I'm
just send me a
trying,
copy whenever it's out.
Yeah, I will as soon as it comes out. It's just a dream to get it out. I hope it happens soon,
I hope it comes out soon.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And one more question is that what do you feel about the latest trend of resurrecting the old school death metal sound by newer bands? Like many of those are nearly copies of the older bands, but some of them have been really stood out. I personally feel that bands like Dead Congregation, Death Evocation, Funebrarum, Sluggathor, etc., to name a few, have been successfully able to revisit the ancient American and Scandinavian sounds with a great deal. What are some of the bands from this era which you like listening to?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I don't know any of the bands that you just mentioned, so I must be old,
Oh,
I must be old, or you must be young.
young.
which is okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Perfectly okay.
I'm not criticizing the bands. I never heard any of them.
Right.
But hey, the American and the Scandinavian sounds, those were great sounding bands, of course.
Agreed.
A lot of great stuff came from Sweden as well.
Yeah.
So if these bands sound anything like these bands, then they must be doing something right,
Yeah, they are. Especially the
Okay,
band Dead
good.
Congregation, because they have taken the sound of Incantation, not exactly copying them, just taking the down tune, the doomier riffs, and just implementing their original sounds. And great riff
Okay,
work,
well,
technical songwriting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe you can
I
check it
believe
out.
you. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll check it out,
Sure. And now, with this, we come to an end of this spectacular conversation, and I must say that it has been one of the greatest moments of my life to interview
come
you.
on, man.
No, I'm serious.
Oh, come on.
And Paul, thanks a lot for your precious time and for this interview. I wish you all the luck for your future.